Hello, my name is Linus Kinywa, your lecturer at Quast. We are here to discuss KPS 301 Inventory Planning, lesson number 2, risks in procurement of goods and services. Risks in procurement of goods and services. So briefly, let's just introduce this concept briefly. Whenever you are procuring or whenever we are buying goods, works and services, sometimes a purchasing officer or purchasing department may be faced with several risks, and this is actually true. It keeps on occurring from time to time. Risks are challenges. Risks are eventualities that are there, but sometimes we are not foreseeing them. At times we are expecting them and they happen. Other times we are not expecting some of these challenges, and so they don't happen. So as a procurement officer or as an inventory planner, when you are acquiring or when you are purchasing or when you are buying these goods, works and services, you need to be prepared. That is why we are saying you need to be a professional in supply chain management. You need to be anticipating. To anticipate it is to expect what some eventualities that may happen along the supply chain when you are acquiring goods, works and services. And we have a table here that is trying to specify various risks that can be found when we are doing various operations within supply chain. For example, we have this one of operation of identifying the need. Whenever you're identifying the need, we are saying there can be risks that may be inside when you are trying to identify these needs or the needs of the company. There may be challenges when you are trying to identify the needs. The second operation is like when you are developing the specification. So when you are coming up with specifications, you can have some needs, you can have some risks, or you can have some challenges when you're trying to come up with these specifications. The third operation is like when you are selecting the purchasing method. So maybe you want to use single sourcing, multiple sourcing, centralized, decentralized, etc. So you can have some challenges when you are making the decision of either choosing one method of procurement as opposed to another. When you are doing purchasing documentation, you can have some risks inside. You can have some challenges inside, or when you are trying to come up with purchasing documentation, or when you want to develop purchasing documentations, things like invitation to tenders. These are like the documents, request for proposal, request for quotations, request for information. So when you are trying to develop this specification, remember you can be faced with some of these risks, and so on and so on. So that is what we want to briefly look at. So for example, the first operation is like identifying the need and planning the purchase. So inside the need and the identification, you can have these challenges or these risks. For example, risk number one is like you can understatement of the need. Maybe a need is why you need to purchase. Like it's like asking yourself this question: why do we need to purchase these printing papers? Why do we need to purchase these photocopying machines? Why do we need to buy these raw materials? So sometimes when you have a business need and it may be genuine, but you can end up understating the need. The need may be more bigger than maybe you have identified it. Number two, you can be faced. Remember, in every risk there is a likely consequence and the action to take. So, but we briefly want to discuss the risk themselves. So the second, another risk under identifying the risk and planning the purchase is overstatement of the need. Sometimes you may be having a genuine need, but you may over amplify it, or your staff may over amplify the need. Hence, this one is going to cost you, because either you are going to buy too much of the raw materials, too much of the resources, too much of the goods, whereas the actual resources that were required were just a bit minimal. So another risk on identification of the need is what we call misinterpretation of the needs. Sometimes you can misinterpret. To misinterpret is to misdiagnose. For example, you may be having maybe a need of raw materials, but you may misinterpret this need of raw materials with the need of maybe semi-finished goods, and this is actually going to affect your business, for example. So let's look at the second operation, that is when you are developing the specification. When you are developing the specification, you can be faced with these challenges or this risk. Number one, you can come up with narrow definition or commercial specifications. Narrow definition of specification. So developing specification is coming up with exact measurements, for example, exact quality, exact quantity that you're going to use, exact measurement, exact brand. This is what you're calling developing the specifications, because if you come up with bad specification or wrong specification, it's going to affect the product that you are going to buy, and maybe they may not be very suitable when you bring them back to your purchasing company, or when you come up with wrong specifications of your inventories. Remember, the specifications you develop, it means when you go to the market, that is what you are going to buy. So you may buy wrong inventories, bring them to the company, and they may not actually serve the purpose which is intended. Maybe the customers may not be satisfied. They may be the external customers, or they may be internal. So sometimes you can come up with very narrow specifications. You may not actually do a very good job, and this actually can either affect your customer service, for example. Sometimes you can do you can do definition of inappropriate services or product. This means it is another risk. You can come up with specifications of a wrong product, yet what the kind of the product you want to buy is totally different from the product that you have specified. For example, maybe you want to buy some laptops, and maybe these laptops, maybe you want some HP laptops or Compaq or etc.